people. I'm Dr. L. Brown.
And I'm Ricky too.
And today we're going to talk about sensory issues.
Or like sensory issues or fears of different textures.
Mm-hmm.
Or the way that they look or they form.
Mm-hmm. The way things look, the way things feel.
Or deform.
The way things sound. You know, when he's talking about deformity, he's talking about balloons. Like, he likes mylar balloons, but he does not do latex balloons at all. Tell me about your latex balloons.
Because first of all, I always hate the popping noises that they make.
Uh-huh.
And they're so loud. It gets you every single time. Like, it's unexpectedly. And the secondly, I just really hate old balloons. It just like looks so weird. They look so deformed. Like if I touch it and it deforms on me, I just gonna jump because it looks like some sort of like weird, like different, ugly looking like thing that I don't even want to look at. I just want to throw it away.
It's so for real. Like, he wants no parts of latex balloons. Like, if we walked into a room and they had a bunch of latex balloons, we coming up out of there. Especially if any of them begin to deflate
or
and
get smaller.
Get smaller and they become like kind of wrinkly. But he's been like that since he was very young. The first time I noticed it was like with this like fuzzy purple car that was in the social worker's office when he was like 4, and we were playing, and whenever that car would come
Okay, guess what?
What?
The more you talk about this, I can actually hear my ears rumble. I can actually feel my ears rumble
at all. So even now, 10 years later,
you're making me sick inside.
Okay, so we're gonna stop talking about the toy that should not be named. We're not gonna talk about it anymore. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so we won't talk about that one anymore. So something else is that when we were going to like places that had lots of lights, like a Chuck E. Cheese or like a carnival place, when he was young, probably about 3 years old, the flashing lights and stuff,
the flashing lights or the spinning objects.
Or spinning objects, things like that would war with his spirit when he was very young. You didn't like the way that sound. And the first time we noticed was in Orlando, and he went into a place and we just had to leave. Well, he was with Dad, and he and Dad had to leave because he had a visceral reaction to all the flashing lights and such. So
was it like an arcade or something like that?
It was an arcade, and you just didn't like all the dings and the flashes, and you just had to come out of there.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was like, it was noises, like when he was younger, which is so odd now because you really, really, really love noisy places now. You like listen to noise all the time. But when he was young, I always kept purple earplugs in my purse because I never knew when we would go somewhere that would have like loud noises or sudden noises. So if it's any place we were going that was going to be loud, even though he would enjoy the activity, he wouldn't appreciate the loud sound. So we would put earplugs in his ear. And if we went to like the circus, we would have earplugs. If we went to SeaWorld, we would have earplugs. If we went to like a carnival or a fair, you would always have these little earplugs in your ear that just kind of muted the sounds. Do you remember how that made you feel? How did the sounds make you feel, or were you too young to remember that?
Oh yeah. I think I actually remember this. I think I actually kind of remember. And also, remember that Chipotle?
What happened at Chipotle?
At the mall in California, in Chipotle, there was like a giant thing. There was like a giant like cylinder thing, and I was like hovering from it.
Oh,
like this.
Okay. I don't really remember that, but I trust your memory.
You know why? Because I was like scared because I was like where that thing falls down or breaks or something like that.
Oh, interesting. That's something else that I'm sure it happened. I don't remember. But it was so many different things that occurred when it came to like sensory things that I then had to pay attention because I didn't know how things would feel or sound or even smell. Is certain things that he smells he doesn't like. It's certain foods that he won't eat. It's certain clothes that he won't wear. Like he doesn't like clothes. He does pretty, you are okay with tags now, but there was one time where you didn't like any tags in your clothes.
No, why? Because it itch.
It itch.
Yeah, it feels like you can like bit my stomach or something's on you or something like that.
It feels like something's on you.
Like only tags I like was like paste on tags last time. It wasn't like hanging like paper tags.
Right. So yeah, because I still take like, some of the tags on my clothes.
I think one time I was actually afraid of I think I'm not exactly sure if you remember, but I think I was actually afraid of crumbled up paper.
Mm-hmm. I remember crumbled paper. You didn't
wrinkly paper.
You didn't like wrinkly paper. You also didn't like the wrinkly balloons. You just it was things had to be a certain way for him. And again, I would have to fight the urge to be like, Ricky too, it's okay, because I would have to remember I don't have autism, so I can't say in my neurotypical brain that it's okay, because I don't know what he's feeling. Like when we were just talking about that we're not going to talk about, how he was feeling something in his ear. Like I've never felt that, but I have to respect that and leave that topic alone. Also, like he loves being in water, but he doesn't like, feeling things that are wet. What's that about?
Yeah, it just like feels like weird to me. It just feels like gross to me.
It feels gross to you.
Like I said, like I don't like putting hands inside dirty water while I'm wearing all these dry clothes.
Oh yeah, I don't like putting my hand in dirty water either, in dry clothes. But not to marginalize that's one of his sensory issues, but that's something that mommy doesn't like either. Yeah. So one of the things the reason why I highlighted this is because when I'm with my child, I want him to always feel comfortable, and I want him to always be in a comfortable space with me. So I seek to understand the things that war with his spirit, so I can eliminate those in our household, or so I can speak for him, like before we go to something, like, hey, can we put away the latex balloons, because Ricky too would love to come, but I think that these might kind of war with his spirit. Or, I'm able to, well, now he's able to say it, but in the past, I was able to say when people were trying to offer him food that he didn't want to eat, that I would stand and say, well, that's not something that he's going to eat, or we actually brought something for him to eat. Because sometimes people get offended when you don't eat their food or you don't like the things that they like, because we've taught children to be compliant in certain areas. And when we teach children to be compliant, sometimes we're teaching them to suppress their needs to accommodate other people's feelings. And I just never wanted to do that with Ricky too, because again, I didn't know what he was, executive functions that he had to employ to navigate the world. And I didn't want to stress him out on things that, in the grand scheme of things, it's really not important. No.
I think one time I was actually like afraid of, I was like afraid of like wrinkly stuff or like weird textures. I just don't want to touch them.
Right, you just didn't want to touch them. And so now and the other thing, it was his hearing. His hearing was so acute, but it worked in two ways. Like he could hear something that was happening like far away before I would hear it. And
I gotta say, remember in the car you had like that. Had like a bag of toys, and I heard like a noise in there, like in the back.
Yeah, he will hear a noise that I won't hear. But the other side of that is that he's extremely musically inclined. So he hears things in music that I don't hear. So very early on, he had a keyboard, and he could like hear a song, and he would go and he can play the song on the keyboard, like from not like reading. He can read music now, but that was before he learned to read music. He could just play things by ear. And even now, if we are listening to something, like we were listening to Beyonce's like Homecoming, and he could hear every single instrument he'll be like, oh, that's a trombone, that's a tenor sax, he hears things like that. So his hearing is very acute. So one of the things with the sensory issues, there are things that we might be concerned with as parents, rightfully so, because we're trying to understand our children. With that, there also gifts that lie within these differences that, you know, if we take time to nurture, that they grow into talents that our children are able to employ later on in life. Like, for instance, when he started middle school, he was one of 3 7th graders, because his middle school is 7th and 8th graders, who was in the wind ensemble. So it was like he can pick up an instrument and just play it. So yeah, that's like the sensory stuff that we notice.
Sensory.
With Ricky too. And is anything else you want to say?
No, I think we're good.
I think we're good too. So again, when you start noticing those things, you know, again, with your child, just go say, "Ooh, my neurotypical brain, I mightn't understand readily, but my child's opinion deserves to be acknowledged." And if they're in a space where someone isn't, you know, as mom, as dad, as caregiver, as teacher, as service provider, I'm going to advocate for this child until they have the voice to advocate for themselves. Now Ricky can say, "Well, I don't do balloons." But there was a time when he wouldn't say that. He would just cling to me. All right. Well, that's all we have.
Yep.
You got any more?
No, I think we're good.
You said that before. I should have listened the first time. All right, good people. We will see you later. Bye.
Bye.